Uh, hello? Hello? Chad, are you there? What do you want to talk about?
Hey, how's it going? You know what I
Great.
want to talk about?
What's
I
that?
want I want to talk about Kevin Bacon.
Oh, that's funny. I kind of thought maybe you had another topic in mind, but sure, we can talk about Kevin Bacon. Stir of Echoes is really good.
Haven't seen it,
What? That's a
but
great movie.
I did see Animal House. That was his first movie.
That's true.
I think he was Academy Award nominated in that.
Wow.
And
Him
his
and him
four
and Tom Hulce,
That's
who
right.
was Mozart, went on to become Mozart. He went on to good things.
But he was also in, are you ready?
Yep.
Friday the 13th, number one.
Wow. The original. He was one
That's
of the
right.
original Crystal Lake.
Victims, yeah. Okay, but this won't do.
So Friday the 13th.
Yeah, so I recently set out to watch all the Friday the 13th movies. And when the first two came out, everybody was, oh, this is so terrifying. Oh, the scariest movie ever. But, I'm team Michael Myers. Michael Myers is the best killer in a movie, in the best movies,
Right from the
even the
Halloween
bad
movies.
movies. Yeah, the Halloween movies. Even the bad Halloween movies are still better than the Friday the 13th's best,
Right.
right?
Yeah, I've maybe
So, but I
seen
hadn't
like
seen them.
I've maybe seen, I don't know, maybe a third of them.
So I would make four because there's 12.
Yeah,
Uh,
that sounds about right.
so I inherited a box of horror films and they had all the Friday the 13th movies in it. So I thought, well, let's tackle this. So
Was it from an uncle who said he bequeathed you his entire fortune if you were able to get through all the Friday the 13th movies?
uh yes, I
Awesome.
wish.
Woof.
That's right. That's
Cool.
right. And you know what I won? I won a box of DVDs.
It's like 13 Ghosts, only it's Friday the 13th movies. Get it? See, I made that connection. Connected the dots.
So I thought, well, why not? We'll get through all of them, and I did. Holden and I sat down there, and we suffered, and watched all of them from number one right to the reboot.
Right.
And so I figured I would save people the pain and suffering of getting through all the movies
Right.
by taking us through the story arc,
Yeah, no,
so
it's a
that you don't really
very
have to watch it.
Yeah, it's a very, well thought out, constructed narrative. Like it's an arc. You could tell they were like George Lucas. They had a vision of all they were going to be to the end, from the start to the end, right? And it's a very cohesive narrative
Exactly.
where everything follows perfectly for them. Everything makes sense. There's nothing nonsensical in any of them, right?
Yeah, all the continuity is like it's meticulous. It's
Yeah,
they watch every little, oh, was his other eye always that low on his face?
right,
This is the
right.
other thing. In this franchise, they make the mistake of showing us his face too often. So my objective here is to spoil all of the Friday the 13th movies
All right.
so
We'll
that
definitely put that up front. The spoiling.
that's right. People can go out and watch good movies, good horror films. There's lots of good ones. Watch The Strangers, watch The Conjuring, watch Halloween in any way you want. Watch
Yep.
whatever the Halloween one with the reality movie. That one was terrible, but that's still better than all of the Friday the 13th.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm going to take you through the story arc so you can
Yep.
follow this this biblical proportioned epic that
Right.
is the life and times and murder sprees of Jason Voorhees.
I paid for the whole seat, but I'm only going to need the edge.
Hey, you paid for one seat and you're going to see 12 movies here.
Nice.
So,
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
so in 1980 it all begins with Friday the 13th. Now, they didn't have the foresight to call it Friday the 13th part 1 or number 1. They
Right.
just called it Friday the 13th.
Because we're only making one of
Uh
these. We're only going to get away
yeah,
with
it was
one.
something like that. It said they were doing something different because that kind of summer camp movie I don't know. I don't. It may have happened already, but there'd been killers like the Slumber Party Massacre. I think might predate it. I'm not sure. Um, but there's a few of those kind of killer movies with like When a Stranger Calls,
Yep.
and Halloween has got a couple of years on the first movie.
Yep.
So they were trying to capitalize on the success of Halloween.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
It's an
they
answer
were
to
100%.
Halloween, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So it starts off, the backstory is young Jason Voorhees is at a summer camp, and
Yep.
everybody makes fun of him, and the counselors are always having sex and goofing around and splashing each other and playing in the whatever. And somehow, and it's kind of vague, somehow he's ignored and drowns.
Right.
So it's never really clear, like, did he go out on a boat by himself and
Right.
then fall over and drown?
Like,
Because then it's his fault.
did he break the rules?
Yeah, like, was he doing something he shouldn't have been doing? And
But
then
even
they were supposed.
so, if he's doing something he shouldn't have been doing, the counselors should have been paying attention, right? And it'd be interesting to me if like was the scenes while he was drowning where the counselors like doing hanky panky, because that would make a really good connection between between that event, his demise, and what he does through the whole rest of the series, which is murder Randy teenagers who are having sex, about to have sex, or have had sex.
Yeah, so that's what the overall story arc leads us to believe.
Right.
But it's kind of, it never answers the question of why.
Hmm.
So in the very first movie, you just know that there's a legend that in the 1950s, this boy drowned,
Yep.
right? And it was because of it was believed by some that it was due to the negligence of the counselors.
Right.
Supposed to be 1950s. So I don't know how much hanky panky was really going on in a summer camp, because it would have probably been pretty uptight.
I hate to break this to you, but they had sex in the
No,
1950s.
they didn't. Please. They just talked about it. Anyway, he dies.
Yep.
And then and I can't, I'm trying to remember, maybe I shouldn't say this, but in one of the movies, I believe it's in the first one, they mention that there are killings that happen from time to time here at Camp Crystal Lake,
Mm-hmm.
which is where this whole story is set.
Yep.
And they've attributed it somehow to the ghost of Jason, right?
Right.
But without anything
Yeah, it's just a
concrete.
legend. It's an urban
Yeah,
legend, pretty
to
much, right?
talk about around the campfire. It's no big deal.
Yep. Yep. It's a horror story to tell around the campfire.
So with this in mind, and there's one crazy guy in town, wears a silly hat. He looks like a hobo, and he's
Yep.
like, "You kids are all gonna die,"
Great.
and it's so over the top,
Always need one of those in town.
and it's like, isn't that what
Crazy
you do every
Willie.
summer?
You
Exactly.
kids are gonna die. Jay's gonna kill you.
and and
Slapping his
and
knee.
that's what he's like. I'm not, without exaggerating. We're not even hamming it up. Like, he might be more hammy than that,
Right.
right? He actually looks like, if they asked the director to be a drunk,
Right.
can you just be, yeah, you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys are all gonna die. So anyway, so
Yep.
then the killing begins. The counselors are there in anticipation, and I don't know if this still happens, that the counselors get there early and help, make the camp look good. Maybe it still happens.
I don't know that they do that, but I've never been a camp counselor. Were you ever a camp counselor?
No, I was a camper. I went
Yeah,
twice.
I've been to those camps, but I've never been a counselor.
Yeah. So
Never
I
had
don't know.
never had a crazy old man as the bus was pulling in the driveway. You're all gonna die. Yeehaw.
So anyway, so that's the premise: is they get there early in the season,
Yep.
all 8 of them,
Yep.
and they're waiting for a couple more. The couple more they're waiting for, of course, are the ones that got killed on the road, right?
Oh,
Mysteriously.
okay.
So now
Right.
in this film, all the killings are first person,
Right.
right? So you don't see him ever.
It's
And
just
it's,
like first person and breathing, right?
you're looking through the killer's eyes. So they're watching, they're hiding, they're pulling the curtain aside, and they're, and then killing, and machete attacks and arrows through throats and all this kind of thing until they're all picked off.
Yep.
Kevin Bacon being one of them. It's funny, I watched this little documentary and it was talking about, oh, they say there was a curse because none of the people from the movie ever really went on to other things. And it's like,
One of those.
what about Kevin Bacon? Like, I think Kevin Bacon did okay for himself.
Kevin Bacon, who has a saying that he's connected to everybody in Hollywood, right? He didn't do good, I guess.
And
this guy, you can connect everyone in Hollywood to him.
Yeah, he manages to be an actor who is in a rock band and doesn't make it lame. You know, he's like,
yeah,
I don't know. It's just it's ridiculous. It's like the King Tut curse,
right? Or the poltergeist curse, where two people died, and that's like, oh my god, 3 people maybe.
The Twilight Zone curse.
Yeah, exactly.
The Crow. They're going to remake The Crow, and Brandon Lee, he died. Oh, the curse.
Talk about tempting fate. God damn. Anyway.
So you get through this first movie, and there's good suspense in this movie. It's all in the dark. It's the old school style horror film.
Yeah, it's a movie like Halloween. Halloween, I think, held on to this longer, but it's like, you could say it's an homage to Hitchcock. Now that's like really, being grandiose, but it's still, it does have that feeling like like you're doing kind of a modern version of Psycho, right?
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, right?
Well, he's putting you inside the mind of the killer. So
it's just like, except every kill scene is a shower scene, right?
Andy?
All the people die, right? So they kill all of the counselors.
Yep.
And
this faceless killer in POV kills everybody.
That's right. And and you never see them.
That's right.
I think you see their foot or something like that once in a while.
Yeah, maybe the back or from the back or something.
And so now you're down to, the last girl. Right? She's the one who's a bit smarter than everybody else.
Yep.
She's the one who doesn't fuck as much as everybody else.
And she's a girl.
And she doesn't smoke a lot of dope, and she doesn't
she's kind of chaste. Yeah.
She has a future.
She's virginal.
She's not, but she's also just not like, hey, take my top off and splash around.
Right.
And so it's down to her and the killer.
Yep.
And there on the beach, the killer is revealed. It wasn't on the beach. It was
it was by the lake, wasn't it?
No, it was. I think it was actually in one of the cabins.
Right. Or is it the Voorhees home?
No, it's not. There is no Voorhees home because it's summer camp.
Okay.
Right. So somehow she's there. I don't know why, because we see her earlier and says hi or something like that, and she doesn't.
Yep.
I think she tells the backstory earlier in the film about the boy who died. I can't even remember how that played out, but it turns out she's the killer. It's Jason Voorhees' mom.
Oh, my sweet, innocent Jason. My only child. Look what you did to him!
In a fisherman's sweater, she's the killer.
Right.
Oh, and she's crazy, and she does little voices like she's
again,
mommy,
Psycho. It's just like Psycho.
Yeah. So they had to draw from something, right?
Yeah, of course. And they're going to draw from one of the great, because Psycho is like the prototype slasher film, right? Like,
and it was already 20 years behind us.
Yeah,
when that movie came.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's the mom and the girl have the standoff, and the girl swings the machete and cuts the machete I think it was a machete. Cuts the mom's head off.
Right.
The end. The head rolls. Ah.
Yep.
And then
she survived.
And like again, this movie had good suspense. It was entertaining. At the end, it's the nice picturesque lake, and there's the rowboat out in the water because the girl, terrified in the middle of the night, in the middle of the dark, in the summer camp with dead bodies everywhere, and this headless mom that she just killed, she gets into a boat, she goes to the lake, and she just parks herself there, right?
Right.
And then she's there with her hand hanging over the boat, and that's, you don't hang your hand over the boat. You don't do that.
Yeah, again, it's shadows of Jaws, right?
Exactly.
A little touch of Jaws in there.
And then the sheriffs are there, the police are there, and the lights are on the shore, and they're looking out and they see her. And then all of a sudden, And
Yep.
the little boy Jason, all mutated and eye down here and head over there, jumps up and grabs her, and that's the end of the movie.
Right.
I can't remember if this was the tag. I think this was also at the end. I think then it cuts to her in the hospital, and nobody knows what she's talking about.
Right.
There's no indication there was a boy. There's no boy.
We didn't find any boy.
Then he's still there.
And that's the end of the movie. And then the beginning of that might actually be in the beginning of the second movie. I'm a little confused there, but because it's all like a big mush of muck and blood.
Right.
So then the second movie starts, and they called this one, ready? Friday the 13th, Part 2.
Right.
Right? Because now they're thinking, hey, this is the second movie. They've given it a number.
Yeah.
They've
They
used
see success. They've
Yeah.
tasted success.
and lots of success. It was
Yeah.
hugely profitable.
Yep. Much
Um,
like Halloween.
yeah. Well, and that was their motivation.
Right.
So then it starts off, the girl is in the hospital. Nobody saw any boy. She's, what? There was a boy there. There was a boy. It was Jason Voorhees. Right. I'm sorry. No. And then she goes back to her house in the city or whatever. Another batch of counselors in the summer camp. And they have now this little story with the woman who had her head chopped off. And they still tell the story about Jason Voorhees and everything.
Right. Right.
And suddenly now we have a killer again who starts picking them off. And this killer now wears a sack. Now, clearly a man.
Yeah.
He's big. And he's
Yep.
got one hole on his sack. Very
Yep.
much, he looks like the Elephant Man.
Right. Right.
Somehow, that little boy who drowned in the lake is
Yep.
now this man with a sack on his head, killing teenagers. And he's killing them not because they were fooling around and letting him drown when he was a boy,
Yeah. Because
but
that's not the
because
same
he
people.
saw.
Yeah.
Hmm?
That's not the same
No,
people.
but revenge is revenge. It's not the same people, but like they represent the
Yeah.
counselors.
All right.
So that's why he wants to kill them. But in this case, he wants to kill them, supposedly, because he saw from somewhere his mother on the beach get her head chopped off by the girl.
Legend has it that Jason saw his mother beheaded that night, and he took his revenge. A revenge that he'll continue to seek.
So now he's affected. Where he was living for the last 20 years, no one knows.
Right.
Somehow he saw this and has revenge. So then he spends that movie, number 2, killing people.
Right. Very derivative
Then-
of the original, it seems.
There's this question of, though, where have you been?
Right. Maybe he had
You
a
know,
lead
like-
to, and he was killing rabbits. I don't know.
Well, he did. He had a little shack. He had this little shack, and he had
Yeah.
like, at the end, like it leads up and a couple of the people make it to the shack. And I don't know how he could have lived in there for 20 years, right? But he was supposedly living there. And in one room, he had built an altar to his mom. So there, in there is her head,
Yeah.
because somehow he got the head, like the coroner, when they showed up the next morning, they didn't pick up the body, which had the head there. Somehow he now has the head,
Right.
and it's on an altar, and he worships it. And the girl saves her ass because she kind of has a similar aesthetic, and she happens to be wearing a sweater kind of like mother's.
Yep.
Starts going, Jason, now stop it, Jason. And Jason stops, like, huh? Who's this is mom? Like he's supposed to be that dumb.
Yeah.
Like he's that deranged and that out of his head. So I don't know how he functioned for 20 years in the woods. So in that, and then there's more machete attacks, and everybody dies except for one, the girl at the end.
Paul? Where's Paul?
Then we get to number 3.
Okay, now hopefully there's got to be a deviation from the formula because you've just done 2 movies. Sorry, the second one, what year was that? 82?
81, 1 year later.
Wow, just 1 year later. Wow.
So now
you
number 3 is 1982. Now another
yeah,
year.
just a year and a year and a year. But hopefully there's a variation. You can't do 3 of the same movie.
Okay, so now the budget for number 1 was $550,000.
Right.
$500,000.
Yeah. Still maybe
it
200,000, 300,000 more than Halloween. Something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe 200,000. Yep. But
and
low.
it made 60 million.
Yeah.
So it made a huge, like that's giant.
Yep.
Right? It's like I don't know, at least double.
Yeah, that's a big ROI. That's a big ROI.
Like that's what you want, you know. Hey, we're gonna take a bunch of unknown actors, go out into the woods, film a little movie. Everything's in the dark, nobody's gonna see shit, and we're gonna make $55 million. Number 2 was made in 1980. In 81, number 2 cost 1.2 million.
Okay.
So the budget more than doubled.
Yep.
And it only made 21 million. So it went way down.
You can't tell the same story again, right? Just
No,
here's the
and
exact same story.
But they've given a new killer at least, right? But he has a sack on his head, and that's not cool. He looks like the Elephant Man, right? So then number 3 comes along, and it's not. It also takes place at a summer camp, for what I remember. I know it starts, and he kills this guy.
Yep.
In a gas station, I think, and his wife, and it's there, I believe, he gets the hockey mask. So he sees the hockey mask. He's like, "Oh, that's a cool mask." That's exactly how he talks. He puts the mask on.
So he sounds like Keanu Reeves. Whoa. Whoa.
God, whoa, like, goddamn, like,
whoa,
this is crazy.
There's a hockey mask. I'm gonna put that on.
So then he kills people, and it's so forgettable that my notes, as I was trying to go through what happened in number 3, my notes are Jason gets a mask.
That's
my notes.
That's it. That's
in my notes.
The whole
so he got
whatever 90 minutes of the third one is like he gets a mask. That's all you need. Like, where is he? Where is he doing this?
Camp Crystal Lake.
You would think after a horrible mass murder at Crystal Lake, and then another horrible mass murder at Crystal Lake. Now you're telling me they still keep this camp open?
Well, the camps. I don't know if the camp is still open at this time.
Oh,
it's in that area,
right?
And I think this might be number 3. Might pick up right at the same night, even
as 2,
because there's new news reports and things like that about the killings, and so it might at the end of number 2, number 3 might pick up right there, and then he goes into hiding. He kills some people, gets a hockey mask, and for the life of me, I can't remember any more than that. There's nothing. I could have looked it up, but it was like, no, I've just told you everything you need to know. He gets a mask. Yep. Don't waste your time. Number 3 is garbage, right?
Right. Now, was number 3 in 3D?
Yeah, that's right. So there's like the arrow that comes out.
Right. Comes right at you.
Comes up.
Yeah.
It's lots of that, and it's still really bad. So now I can't remember how he dies at the end of that one, because he keeps dying at the end of all the movies somehow. I think at the end of number 2 he dies too, but I know in number 2, one of the attacks that the girl does on him is she takes her machete and cuts him down the shoulder.
Yeah.
Passes his clavicle through his rib cage.
Wow, that's quite a swipe.
And like deep, like so far down that it's probably equal to his armpit, right?
Yeah.
And nobody's gonna survive that. His arm is virtually just falling, like the shoulder has been cut off.
I imagine there's a few major veins and arteries.
There might be, it's pretty close to the heart. It might have cut something off on the way.
Yeah.
But he survives that.
Okay.
The girl survives too, and I think, and she goes to maybe that's the one where she's in the city. Anyway, so he gets the mask. And then number 4 is Friday the 13th, the final chapter.
Yeah, this is it. We've milked this franchise for 4 movies, and this is going to be
right.
the end.
It's
We can't
got
go
to be
any
the
further,
end.
of course.
So
No one's
number
going to
3,
accept or keep going.
because number 3 was made for 2.2 million.
Yep.
And it still made 37 million.
Wow. Yep. That'll be
You
a
know?
4th one. Yeah.
And even though the second one was made for 1.2 and it only made 21 million, that's a giant return. So number 4 comes out, and it was made for 2.6 million.
Yep.
And it still did 33 million.
Not bad. Still
So-
not bad.
So now in number 4, it's almost like they realize how ridiculous they are.
Yep.
Right. So Jason is out there and they introduce the characters, and there's like one nerdy guy who's just so irritating that you want him to die.
Right.
So they've
You're
introduced
rooting
this-
for Jason.
That's right. So now you're rooting for Jason. And that's what I think this is the interesting thing is to watch the birth and creation and legacy of such an iconic character in spite of how bad the movies they were in.
Right.
So now you see by number 4, he's got the mask, he's got the victims, and we want them all to die.
Yep.
Right. There's one woman with her teenage daughter and a little boy. We don't want them to die so much. They're the ones that we're looking out for.
Right.
Lots of killing. Jason kills everybody.
Where
But
are
it's
they?
they're at a cottage, somebody's cottage.
Oh, so it's a cottage in the immediate area, sort of.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's a cottage. They might actually live there. It's hard to say.
Maybe they built cottages over the camp in the campsite land.
No, because the camp is they throughout throughout the story arc, they come back to the camp from time to time.
Okay.
There's old signs, there's old buildings. Oh, look. Oh, can you believe this used to be a camp? Jason kills everybody. It's down to the teenage girl and the little boy. The little boy is played by Corey Feldman,
Yep.
right? I don't know if it's his first movie, but it's one of them. It's before we all knew who he was.
Yep.
It's before the teenage Corey, like Lost Boys and all that
Stand
stuff.
By Me and the Goonies and all
yeah.
that.
So it's pre-Stand By Me as well, and they were pretty young in that movie.
Yeah. Yep.
So at the end of this, Jason's trying to kill the girl, and somehow little Corey Feldman gets on Jason and stabs him to death,
Damn.
kills him dead,
The little
Just-
kid kills Jason
butchers him, right?
out of the knives of babes.
Yeah. And then at the end, the girl's like, "Oh, are you okay?" And he's like, and they embrace, and there's an over-the-shoulder shot
Yeah.
behind the girl, the boy's eyes. It looks, he's all red eyes. Now he's
Yeah.
setting us up. Is he going to be the next killer?
Yeah. He's been so traumatized. He's going to continue.
Right. So final chapter is the death of Jason again.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
number 4, he's now dead.
Yep.
In my professional opinion, this guy's deader than shit.
So now number 5 comes out.
Huh? I thought you said the
Number
last
5.
one was the final chapter. They just like
Yeah, exactly.
stapling new pages to this book.
So that's 84 was chapter 4.
Yeah.
1985 comes around. They come out with Friday the 13th, number 5.
It is
A New
literally
Beginning.
every year there was a Friday the
Yeah.
13th movie.
After, there's nothing in 83. They really had to work on the script for final chapter.
Right. Right.
1985, Friday the 13th, number 5, A New Beginning. So now in this one is like where they, like, you don't even know where they're going with this, right? So it
Right.
starts off and it's okay because the boy is got mental problems, right?
Yep.
Because he had this terrible ordeal. He's got
Yeah.
PTSD,
Yep.
and he gets sent. We don't know about from the little boy to this teenager that he now is. The character's Tommy, and it's no longer Corey Feldman. It's another actor.
Yep.
And he gets sent to, it's kind of like a mentally ill halfway house for
Yep.
people transitioning from the the hospital to society or whatever. But it's supposed to be, it's all young people, except there's this one guy who's like full-grown man, biker, punk attitude, but he's so angry. He's so angry, and he's chopping wood, chopping wood. And there's this nerdy, chubby guy with curly hair who's always eating chocolate bars, and he's got chocolate all over his face. And he's like,
Right.
"Hey, ladies," and he's trying to talk to them. And he's like, "Oh, like, you want some chocolate? Here, I'll help you with your." As the girls are hanging out white sheets to dry, he's like, "Let me help you." And they're like, "No, don't do that." And then he's like, chocolate smears all over. It's like so bad, right?
Right.
They're like, "Get out of here."
Get out of here.
Get out of here. So he goes away, right?
Yeah.
Licking his fingers. And they're like, oh, that guy is so irritating. Oh, but he's sweet. Like one of those type of deals, right?
Yeah.
And then he goes over to the guy chopping wood, right? Who's like, I'm angry chopping wood. I'm chopping wood. I'm so angry. I gotta chop wood.
Yeah.
And then the boy's like, hey, can I help you? And he's like, no. He's like, come on. I can help you. I can do this and that. And he goes, I don't know if he sets up a piece of wood or something. And the guy just loses his shit and kills him with an axe. Just starts hacking, chopping limbs off. He just loses his mind. Like this guy made it to the transitional housing with teenagers to be released into society. He's angry for no reason. There's nobody doing anything to him until this guy comes and talks to him, tries to help him. God forbid.
Right.
That's what you want.
Right.
Yeah, fill up your gas. No. What do you mean, fill up? Sets the guy on fire. You know, it's like fucking crazy. And the girls are like, oh my God, this is so terrible. This is like every other day here. Because, you know,
It's all nuts.
So Tommy goes there. So he's there anyway. And he's kind of like brooding now. And he's kind of angry. And he's got, you know, clearly PTSD. But he still makes like scary masks, which he did. The Corey Feldman character made that. He made these scary monster masks,
Right.
which are so sophisticated. But yet he's supposed to be making them in his room somehow.
Right.
So anyway, so that guy gets hauled off to jail. This ambulance comes, and they're the same guys. I think you see them earlier once, and they're the ones who brought Tommy maybe to this facility, which is just a camp. It's not really like a, you know, it's just a rural camp. And so the two ambulance guys are there, and somebody takes the sheet off the guy who'd gotten murdered, because gotten is a word.
Yep.
And they take the sheet off him, and they're like, "Ooh, that's kind of gross."
Yeah, two ambulance guys. It must be pretty bad. Two ambulance guys go, ugh. How many highway accidents have they presided over?
So then they cover the guy back up. They cart the body off, and then it's like another. You know, now there's a killer again. It's first person. You don't know who it is, and then at some point you finally see it's Jason. He's got the hockey mask. He's got the bald head. Right? It's all right, making a mixed drink. So then he kills. At one point they do these, like, all the movies have these sort of asides, these little moments, right? Away from the plot, so that they can just have an extra killing. So you see it's Jason. He starts killing everybody. All the people die. All the girls, the boys, everybody dies. Everybody's fooling around. They all die. And then they have this aside where there's these two guys. Okay, now keep in mind, number 5 is 1985.
Yep.
Okay. There's two guys in a car. It's like a 70s, big boat.
Yep.
And they're having engine troubles. Right. This is the other go-to. I think this happens a few times in the franchise where somebody has engine troubles and Jason just kills them.
Yep.
So they're dressed in like leather cap and leather jackets. Like they're supposed to be like they look like 1950s hoods.
Yep.
Now there's a rockabilly scene, but they're not really rockabillys either. They look like they're trying to be Brando in The Wild One. Like it's just, I don't know, it was like they were members of the Grease cast,
Right.
It's just kind of weird. So one's in the car going, oh, you get it going. And then meanwhile, Jason kills the guy who's looking under the hood. And then the other guy goes, whoa, what's going on out here? And then he gets killed too.
Right.
And it's just, but they were cartoons. They were like, this is where they start making it so silly. Right. Because they realize how silly it is. Right.
Right.
So
they lose all credibility. They've lost all credibility by this time. Like you're making
they're not even attempting to
film.
gain credibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you find out at the end that the killer, are you ready?
I'm
is
ready.
Not Jason.
Oh.
It's not Jason. It's somebody capitalizing on the Jason killings. So he went out and he got himself not only the hockey mask, but he got himself a rubber mask that went over his head underneath, so it looked like he was bald and deformed. Like,
wow.
Shave your head. Nobody's looking at the details of the back of your head
while you're chopping them up with a machete.
But he puts on a mask, and then he puts on the hockey mask on top of the mask.
Yeah.
And, he tries to kill everybody. And in the end, you find out that the killer is the ambulance driver.
God damn.
Because the story is that the ambulance driver was the actual father of the idiot with the chocolate on his face who got killed by the axe. And when he saw the sheet come up, his brain fried, and he now had to kill.
Well, gang, I guess that wraps up the mystery.
And he didn't kill the guy. Well, I think the guy who killed the guy did get killed. But everybody got killed. He killed everybody.
Right.
So he killed his partner. He killed everybody.
Yep.
And in the end, they killed him. I think he got pushed off of the second floor of a barn, and then he landed on spikes, like something like that.
Okay.
Okay, so that's
number 5.
That's number 5. Number 5 was now made for $2.2 million. Still made $22 million.
Yeah, that's not bad.
No, it's good money. Especially since they probably filmed it over 3 weeks, maybe 2 weeks, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
So then comes 1986, 1 year later, Friday the 13th, number 6, Jason Lives.
Yep.
Okay, so now this is a whole new movie, right? It's a whole, it's rock music. They got Alice Cooper to do the soundtrack. The director, I forget his name, because nobody really should be acknowledged other than Kevin Bacon and Kane Hodder, but it's got a rock soundtrack. They've embraced the heavy metal element of Jason Voorhees, and the director's a total punk rock music guy. And so that's what he's brought in. So now the premise in this one, it starts off, Jason's dead. Okay. So, so in number 5, they said that he had been cremated. So
No
Jason's
coming back from that.
He's dust.
Yeah.
Number 6 starts, and Tommy, the Corey Feldman grown up, now he's a young man, and he's there with his buddy in their shaggin' wagon. And, and the buddy is played by the actor who played Horshack on Welcome Back, Kotter.
Yep.
This guy.
Right.
Mr.
Kotter, Mr. Kotter, Mr. Kotter.
So the premise here is that Tommy has decided he needs to destroy everything about Michael Myers.
Damn.
Jason Voorhees.
Insult.
Right? He has to destroy it all, right? So he's going to go set fire to his body, in spite of the fact in the last movie they said he was cremated.
Right.
But in this movie, he's been buried. Okay, so now they go into the cemetery.
In a pet cemetery, right? A pet cemetery.
It looks like it. It looks like a 1950s Elvira's hosting the show.
Yeah. Wrought iron fences.
Wrought iron fencing, the whole bit.
Yeah.
Like, you got to hit it on the nose. So he goes there and with his little jerry can of gas, and he's going to go like set fire.
I'm going to burn that body. You're going to burn it. I'm going to burn him.
That's right. So he and Horshack,
Mr. Kotter, can I get a jerry can, Mr. Kotter?
they probably smoke a lot of dope, driving the shaggin' wagon over to the cemetery.
Yeah.
And they're going to dig up the grave and set fire to the body. Okay.
Right.
Because of course, and I love how movies like, yeah, they're going to go dig for 4 hours, backbreaking labor to dig up but whatever they do. So they dig it up.
Yeah.
And they gets in there and he opens the casket, and lo and behold, there's Jason Voorhees. All massive worms crawling through his head, and he's wearing the mask. Because that's how they buried him.
Well, that was in his will, right?
He was like,
bury me with my mask.
I'm not gonna do the Jason voice I normally do. Anyway, yeah, but that's good. So they open the casket. There's Jason in his army jacket and his hockey mask, of course, right? But he's just there. He's rotting. The worms are eating him. He's given back to nature because he's a giver. He's a giver, man.
Mm-hmm. He's a giver of machetes.
So then what happens is that the Tommy character says, before I burn him, and he breaks this.
I'm going to have sex with him.
That's right. I'm gonna show him who's boss. I stabbed him once. I'm gonna stab him again.
I'm gonna stab him with a different kind of knife.
So he goes and he gets one of those big pieces of wrought iron off the fence or a
Yep.
post or a sign or something,
Yep.
and he runs over and he stabs the body of Jason with
Yep.
the post, and then
I think I
steps
know
back.
I think I know it's coming, but it's a setup is pretty obvious what's gonna happen. But
Then the thunder.
talk about
and the
Frankenstein.
Okay, so in this is constant references to Frankenstein
Right.
all the way through. When they pass the movie theater, it's playing Frankenstein. Boris Karloff is over there. There's like feed my Frankenstein, I think, probably by Alice Cooper. So he sticks the big wrought iron thing through Jason, the thunder, the lightning, the rain, and it hits the iron, and all of a sudden 1980s little visual effects with the little, the little creepy
little dancing,
the little veins that go all over
Yeah,
of electricity
yeah.
in bright green. And then he comes to life. And now
He's alive.
it's alive. It's the next phase of Jason. Now he's zombie Jason.
Right. Now,
Okay.
is it from now on? He's kind of got supernatural powers, so it becomes really apparent, right?
Yeah, it's.
I mean, he
more
survived.
obvious.
He survived a beating before. He survived a machete halfway down his arm, whatever. Right? He survived stuff, but now it gets to be like biblical proportions. Where,
Yeah, he's Lazarus. He is Frankenstein. He is a zombie. He is unkillable, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So then this movie is him killing a bunch of people in a small town. This has like the asshole sheriff who won't listen to Tommy no matter how much Tommy tells him that there's a killer on the loose. He thinks Tommy's the killer. He doesn't want him around, but of course the sheriff's daughter has the hots for Tommy because he's so cute. And so then she even helps him break out of jail. Like it's all like it's kind of like First Blood. It's that kind of sheriff Rambo kind of thing, right? So then they're constantly trying to convince everybody that Jason's out there. Don't lock me up. I can help and whatever. So, but Jason goes and he kills everybody. Now he's like big and he's angry, right? But at the end, the way they kill him, the way they killed Jason is they're out in a boat in a pond, and it looks like a soundstage. Like it doesn't look real at all. There's a dock. There's this pond.
Yep.
But you can't see how far out it goes because it's so dark. It looks like a soundstage, like right at Gilligan's Island. And they're in a little boat, and Jason, of course, he's on the shore. He's over there, kills somebody. I think it's a harpoon gun in this scene. And then he's standing on the shore. The next thing you know, he's jumping out, splash, like he did in the first movie, at the side of the boat. But they were ready for him, I think, and they put a chain with weights on it that they had prepared ahead of time, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, they chain him up and they dump him. I might have that wrong. Maybe they did it on the shore. It's so hard to tell. They chain him up with weights. They throw him in the water. He sinks to the bottom. That's the death of Jason again. But now he's undead, so he's sort of there forever, right?
Yep.
That's the end of number 6. So 6 was made for $3 million and still made almost 20.
Yeah. The ratio's shrinking a little bit, but
it's shrinking, but it's still making like giant money.
Yeah, there's a profit there.
Number 7.
Yep.
Now let me start this. Number 7 is the best Friday the 13th movie.
After 6 movies.
Yeah. 6 movies, lousy.
This is
number 1 was okay.
Yeah.
And number 7 is the best. So now what happens in number 7 is a lot of things. One is they have Kane Hodder.
Yep.
And Kane Hodder is the new Jason. And he's the right size. He's kind of like menacing. He knows how to stand. You know, a good killer, like Michael Myers has a way of standing and walking. He doesn't move his arms. Like it makes him scary. Kane Hodder figured out how to do Jason. And one of the things he came up with was this breathing. So whenever you see him, he looks like a ticking time bomb, like just ready to explode. And it makes him scary. And so number 7 has like violence and blood and gore and like the other ones were all kind of subtle. Like there was cuts and stuff like that, but most of it was kind of like either quick or in the dark, or you it was about to happen and it would cut away because they didn't want to spend the money on the effects. This movie, they just like, they're all in. It's super aggressive, super violent. And Kane Hodder is a great Jason.
Right.
But what's really cool about this is that the added thing is, it's again these people who live in a cottage. It's very much like number 4, where you have the mom, the teenage daughter, and the young boy. Except the young boy's adopted. He's black.
Right.
To mix it up. And one of the things I want to say about this franchise is that there's this horror tradition, right, where the black guy always gets killed first, right? This franchise never does that. And all of the black actors who've been in any of the Friday the 13th movies are portrayed as normal people. Nobody is comic relief. Nobody is like the butt of the joke. Nobody is a ridiculous cartoon, right? It's really it was very progressive that way. And I don't know if like everybody else was doing it opposite to that. The teenage girl has telekinesis.
Oof.
So
that's a new twist.
They talk about Freddy versus Jason, which is coming, but this is Jason versus Carrie.
Right.
Right. And it's like really well executed. So in this, what happens is that in this flashback, when she was a young girl, her parents got into a fight. And I think the father slapped the mother, and she went running all very upset about it.
Yep.
Rightly so. And the father came out going, "Oh, my baby girl, sorry, you know, I don't know what got into me, blah, blah, blah." And she's like, and she made the dock shake and the lights flicker and everything. And then she made the dock collapse. And it landed in the water where it disturbed the body of Jason Voorhees.
Yep.
And the chains came loose. Then it's about him killing all these people. But now there's this second plot where there's a doctor who's trying to like, you know, has brought the teenage girl with her mother and this other boy to this, you know, this cottage to do research on her, trying to figure her out and see how her telekinesis works. And then you have this great, you know, situation where you have this maniac, but the girl, he can't get her because then she starts using her powers and he can't move.
Right.
You know, and then she, you know, he's standing in a puddle and she breaks a power line and electrifies him. Right.
It's electrifying.
Exactly. But he becomes that just wakes him up more.
Right. As we know, he Energizer Bunny just gets charged up and keeps going.
And then at the end of that one, who knows? Can't even remember how he died at the end of that one. So let's see. Number 7 was 7 was made for 2.8 million, a little bit less than number.
Yep.
They learned the hard way with number 6. Let's spend 200,000 less, and it still made the same amount of money, 19 million.
Right.
So then comes number 8. Now this is where, you know, number 7 was so good, and you think, okay, here we go. Now we're going to deal with the Jason that is so famous, that scary hockey mask, that killer. No, number 7 is it. That's the best movie, and you could just watch that one, and that's it. You don't really need to watch anything else. 8 is called Friday the 13th, number 8, Jason Takes Manhattan.
Right.
Now, this is the dumbest. One of the, like, I don't even know, like, it's hard to say what the dumbest movies are because they're just like, they're all so dumb. But in this one, it's about some graduating high school students who go on a ferry, I think to have a party, but it's never really clear. There's the principal who is the stepfather of the main girl, and he's unhappy that she's there because she has some emotional problems that have never been explained. And he's just kind of a dick all the way through the movie. And they're on the ship. There's a rock and roll girl with her guitar, and this other guy's a filmmaker, and they're gonna like make rock videos. And anyway, Jason kills everybody on the boat.
Right.
And a small group, the principal, the main girl, the boxer guy, and 1 or 2 other people, they managed to get in a rowboat and row to Manhattan from where, from wherever it is that they are.
Right.
And they get there, and moments later, Jason, who either swam or walked on the bottom of the ocean, also arrives at Manhattan. And
Right.
now they're in like this is Manhattan in 19 what are we at? 1986, I want to say. Oh no, we're at 1989 now.
Yep.
The number 7 was 88. This is 89. And so he gets to the shore, he climbs up a dock, and then he's walking, and they're like in some sort of seedy. There's nothing about it that indicates it's New York except for the long shots that show the skyline.
Yep.
And they're just and they encounter like, you know, street criminals who rob them and then kidnap the main girl to give her an injection of heroin, which they do, so they can, and then they're gonna rape her. Like, it's like,
damn,
it's kind of aggressive. She manages to get away because Jason shows up, actually, and then Jason kills the guys, kills more people, kills everybody else that he can see, and it's just so dumb. This is like a movie that Trauma Pictures would have made, except not funny. So one of the guys who survives is this young black guy who is played up to be like, you know, all vibrato and noise, but then he ends up not being like that at all. But he's a boxer, and he actually is the first and probably the only person, one of the only people who ever, he was the first one at that point to ever give Jason a run for his money.
Right.
And fights him toe to toe. The thing about the fight was that he runs out, he eventually like runs out of steam, gets too tired to fight, and his arms drop because he's punching Jason in the mask.
Right.
You know, and then Jason finally just hauls off and punches his head right off his shoulders.
Damn.
Like, it was just like, oh my God. It was very, very bad.
You're a dead meat slime bag. Yo, man, it's cool. It's cool, man. It's cool.
So then that's 1989. Let's see how Jason Takes Manhattan. Number 8 was made for $5 million.
Damn. Went a lot of money on that.
And it made 14 million.
Douche.
Yeah,
good.
So that was not, and
that's a bomb. That's got to be considered a bomb.
They still made $10 million, but it's like it's indicative of just how shit it was.
Yep.
So then number 9. Number 9 is Jason Goes to Hell. It's 1993.
Yep.
And it makes Jason Takes Manhattan like worthy of an Oscar.
Right.
Because it is so bad. Now they've decided, okay, so they're, and a lot of it is even hard to explain, but basically in number 9, it's the beginning and Jason is on a killing spree, right?
Of course.
So they're in the woods and he's on a killing spree, and this girl, of course, takes up, because there's breasts in every movie.
Yep.
And what's really interesting is that
the good old days,
they're all, as the movies come into the new time, the breasts get more and more fake. Like, they're all natural, and you know, they've found real beauties, and as the time goes on, it's like you can see that the change in it's like a time capsule of breasts.
Yeah, like Friday the 13th is reflecting our society. Obviously, it's reflecting off the hockey mask, and we can see ourselves.
So number 1 compared to number 10, like, she is like a giant breast, clearly not real, right?
Yep.
Like, hold on.
Which is a shame, really. It is a comment on society.
So it's the setup, and this girl, and she's in the bath, and she's taking off her clothes, and she's, you know, I don't know what, oiling her breasts, whatever. There was one episode of
that's what women do.
Third Rock from the Sun. Remember that show?
Yeah, I remember that show.
And so the woman alien, I forget her name.
Yeah.
She was giving guidance to another woman of how to be sexy.
Yeah, this
And
alien.
and
She's
she
an
was
alien in a woman's body.
or somebody else, because she had it figured out from what she was explaining. That's it.
Yeah,
She was
yeah.
explaining how to look sexy from based on what she'd seen in movies, right?
Sure.
And in pornography, right? And she was saying, yes, well, you have to smile coyly and then look down at your breast like you've never seen them before, right? And it was much of a scene like that. And then all of a sudden, Jason breaks in to get this girl in the bathroom. She runs through the woods. She falls down. He gives chase. It's like this massive, how did this happen? What is this a dream? How
Yeah.
did this naked girl end up running through the woods with Jason, in hot pursuit? And then she runs out into this
Yep.
open area. Then all of a sudden, giant floodlights, and Jason chases her out. Then giant floodlights light up. She keeps running behind the military personnel. He's surrounded by military vehicles and soldiers who open fire on him.
Okay.
Bombing him, blowing him to smithereens, the whole
Yep.
bit, right?
Yep.
He's dead, and the coroner who's going to do the autopsy, in this, they decide, okay, it's the heart. The heart is the thing that keeps him immortal.
Right.
So the coroner somehow, I don't know if he gets possessed or if he just does it of his own free will, but he takes the heart out of Jason and eats it
Damn.
and then becomes Jason
Right.
and starts killing people. Then they get to this town where now Jason has a sister.
Wow.
And so the sister's in this town, and the story here is that Jason is trying to find, if Jason resurrects,
Yep.
he can keep resurrecting, eternally. But
Right.
only someone of his bloodline can put an end to that
Wow. Convenient.
and kill him for good.
Convenient. They found a sister there.
Yeah. And at one point, like his heart, as he transfers from one person to another throughout this terrible, terrible, terrible movie,
Yeah.
his heart jumps out. I think it has like tentacles.
Damn.
And it's like, what are you watching? Like, what is this that what did they make? Like, there's no cohesive idea or thought. It's just all crazy. Everybody's an asshole. Like, people that shouldn't be assholes are assholes in this movie. And she's the only one who can stop his spirit from jumping from body to body. And then at the end, he's stabbed with the magic ceremonial ritual knife.
Right. That they got from like the Museum of Natural History or something.
It's been in their family since Van Helsing, like it's so absurd.
Right.
And so then there's Jason dead on the ground in a wooded area.
Yep.
And then tentacles and roots and things come up and wrap around his body and drag him into the ground.
Damn.
Now this movie is called Jason. This is called Jason Goes to Hell, right?
Yep.
So then the body disappears into the ground, and then you just see the mask laying on the ground, and then all of a sudden you hear, and you see Freddy Krueger's glove grab the mask and drag it down into the ground. So that is 1993. That movie, Jason Goes to Hell, was made for $3 million. We're going back down. Something must have happened that they spent so much money. And it made 16 million.
Right.
So they're all money makers. Like even the bad ones are still making like a nice chunk of change for the producers. So now they've given this teaser. Now you have Freddy Krueger's hand brings the mask down. So, oh my God, what's next?
It's neat. They were able to do it. They knew what they were going to do next, right? They knew what the next movie was going to be.
But they didn't. That's the
What?
funny thing. So that movie, Jason Goes to Hell, is 1993.
Yep.
Right? The next movie is 2001.
Wow.
And that's Jason X, not
Yeah.
Jason versus Freddy.
Wow.
So
That's amazing.
Freddy versus Jason doesn't come out till 2003, 10 years later. So I don't know if they had initially a plan and then something fell through or whatever, but they did the Freddy,
Yeah.
or it was just a joke, right?
Yeah.
Maybe because I think they kept thinking this is it. This is the end, right? But so you see that at the end of number 9. But now Jason X, number 10,
Yep.
cuts to a facility. And they're doing experiments on him. The military, he's now in possession of the military.
Yeah.
And that's when they decide, well, there's nothing we can do. They take him and they cryogenically freeze him, right?
Makes sense.
For some reason, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
makes
know
sense.
why.
Makes perfect sense.
If they can't kill him because his heart won't die.
Right.
So
And obviously you can't cremate him because he just reforms back into a body in a coffin.
Exactly, with a mask and all.
Yeah.
And so they figure, okay, well, let's cryogenically freeze him. But then he manages to escape and kill everybody. Very Hannibal Lecter in his little, on his dolly,
right?
With his with his hockey mask.
Yep.
And somehow then she lures him into the basement to this cryogenic thing where he gets in there and he's got his machete because, of course, they're testing him, but they didn't take the machete away from him.
Right.
Or take the mask off his face. She lures him into the cryogenic chamber.
Yep.
With his hockey mask and his machete, and then hits the button, and then the door closes, and the ice and the steam and the frost and everything start going on. And then I don't know if he punches or if he uses the machete, but he manages to crack the window, which brings the freezing out of that little chamber into this other room that the chamber's in. And the one woman who had been fending him off, that forced the door to lock, and now she gets trapped in there with him. And even though she freezes before he does, even though she's in the room and he's actually in the chamber,
right?
And so they both freeze. Woo, 425 years into the future.
It's Demolition Man.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool, It's like, this was my second favorite movie.
Right.
It's the most ridiculous of all of them, but it knows it, and it's done in a really well executed way. So it's kind of like the Pepsi commercial where the class is on the moon going, "What's this? It's a baseball. What's this? A Coke ball? Well, I don't know what it is."
Right.
And it's kind of like that where these students are, I don't know, suddenly exploring Earth, and they're in this facility, and they come across this room that nobody in the history of time in the last 425 years has noticed.
Right.
And they see the frozen Jason inside the thing with the hockey mask, right?
Yep.
And then and they notice she's frozen too, so they collect the two, and they bring them out and put them on their spaceship. So Earth is no longer, you can't live on Earth anymore. It's gone bad, so humans have left the planet. And this is a spaceship that's come back just for a little exploration. And so they have all this new technology, and she has a big gash because he stabbed her, right? Because he stabbed her through the metal door. And the super machetes, like they're all made of titanium or something, right?
Right.
And so it's through the big metal door of the cryo chamber and into her gut. So they bring her back to life. The nanobot, they go all over her. They put her in the special machine, and she's good as new.
Like the booth in Prometheus.
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
Except it's not even enclosed. It's just open.
Right.
And they kind of come out and swarm the body and fix it.
Right.
And I think this is probably what a lot of the anti-vaxxer movement saw.
Wow.
See, this is what the COVID vaccine is going to do. It's going to, they're little robots that go inside you and fix you.
Right.
So then, so she's now part of the crew, and she's like, "Oh my God, what about Jason?" They're like, "Who's Jason?" Like, he was the maniac with the man. Oh, that guy. Yeah, we brought him on the ship too. She's, "Oh, why'd you do that?"
Right.
So
even though they have no idea who he is.
Yeah. So then the teacher talks to somebody through FaceTime, some sort of FaceTime of 2003.
Yeah.
And says what he has. And he says, and the guy he calls, he goes, "Gee, that sounds like, could that be Jason Voorhees?" And he's like, "Who's Jason Voorhees?" "Oh, yeah, well, he was a mass killer, and he killed 200." Because Jason, I think, has killed over 200 people in his rampages.
Right.
And so, yeah, he's worth a lot of money. The girl is not worth anything. He says, but the girl's she's beautiful. She's 425 years old. She's a relic, right? This must have some value. He goes, not so much. But Jason is like, and then now he's like, it's kind of like King Kong, right?
Right.
You can put this guy on display. It's like, people are going to love this. So it's worth a lot of money. So now he's doing everything to not destroy the body, but everybody else is trying to destroy the body. The military personnel on the ship want to destroy it. There's a big fight, and there's lots of shooting and killing, and it's a lot of fun. At one point, somebody Like Jason was on this before he comes back to life. He's on the slab, and the the beautiful model that is the doctor who's like doing the autopsy or preparing for the autopsy. He, like the way he kills her is that she has a sink full of some sort of freezing agent or nitro,
liquid nitrogen,
whatever, liquid nitrogen. So she has a sink of that where she freezes things or whatever. So he ends up taking her face and sticking it in there and then pulling it out and then smashing her face on the counter.
Right.
And it shatters. It was good. It was a good killing. Although I wonder, like, what does Jason know? He's been living in the woods. Does he even know what this would be? Like,
right.
like
he absorbs.
How would he even know what that
he's very,
is?
He's perceptive.
He's intuitive.
He's perceptive. That's right. Intuitive. Yeah. He moves on intuition. It's not logic.
Because his hand didn't freeze, but her face did, right?
Right.
So anyway, so then he goes on this rampage, and it was a lot of fun. It was fun in a good old sci-fi, A Stranger Among Us.
It seems like it might be like Alien.
Kind of like Alien
at that point, right? He's on the loose on the ship, killing people.
Yeah, and so when he comes back to life, like he's left alone in the nanobots. Somebody accidentally hits the button or something, so the nanobots come up and heal him.
Right.
But he was missing an eye. He was cut. He was broken. He's basically rib cages because the worms from the had eaten him. He was a zombie. Like he was all skeleton and meat.
Yep.
And so this brought him back, and now he's fit. It made him new clothes. It made him a silver mask.
Nice.
Which is now embedded in his head.
Whoa, cool.
His eyes have been replaced and now they're blood red.
Right.
And he, so that's what we're dealing with. What it looked like was like when a Japanese company does a knockoff of an American toy or product, that's what he looked like.
Right.
Oh, this is our Jason. His name is Michael. No, his name is John. John Voorhees.
Right.
Yeah, so then it's just a big fight for all that, and he's, but they blast through a space station. Like, there's lots of fun in this movie, for the silliness. So this is like the second best. So I would say viewers out there should watch number 7 first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could watch number 1.
I would say you got to watch the first one.
Yeah, watch 1, then watch 7, and then watch 10. 1, 7, 10.
1, 7, 10.
Yeah, and
that's the code.
That's all you need. And then after, because now it's 425 years in the future, it doesn't even matter if he lives or dies, right? Like that's like there's no more. You're not doing another movie that far away. But that's 2001. Let's see what that one made. So Jason X cost 14 million.
Right, big budget.
Right? Yeah, this is like the previous one, Jason Goes to Hell, was 3. This is 14 million, and it only made 17 million.
Wow, that's a disappointment. That's a big disappointment.
Yeah. Well,
it sounds like they were really reaching in the production too. They were really reaching for something. Yep. It's too bad that they kind of fall on their face.
3 million. That's all they made.
Yeah.
It's the lowest ratio yet.
That's disappointing.
So then they make up for it. So that's 2001. 2003, they finally, whatever was the issue with the license or why they didn't make the Freddy Krueger movie, but they finally got them together and made Freddy versus Jason. And it was stupid. It was like, if you were a Freddy fan, which I am not, Freddy is too goofy for me. He's like Chucky. It's like, I don't like the dumb ones who talk too much.
Right.
Right. I liked the first 2 Freddy, the first 3 Freddy movies, or even all of them as they came out originally, but I can't rewatch them. And then the reboot was so bad. But this one is like, they bring back Robert Englund, and it's really the Freddy show. So it's a Freddy movie that has Jason in it.
Right.
And the two of them duke it out.
Well, Freddy is the more dynamic personality, right? Of course, you'd hinge the movie on him, right? Movie with 2 of them.
Well, and it's about Freddy trying to take control of Jason, because Freddy exists because of fear. And he gains power from fear. So he tries to use Jason to create fear, but then he can't control Jason. And then Jason wants to get Freddy. So Jason brings Freddy into the dream state, the nightmare world, but can't control him. Now, one of the dumb things in this is that in this movie, one of the things because Freddy uses your own fears against you. So when he's battling Jason, he has there's water dripping and pouring around.
It's like a water motif.
Yeah. And Jason is like, oh, he's afraid. He's afraid of the water.
Like
he's
Frankenstein afraid of fire.
Exactly.
Jason's afraid of water.
100%. And that's how it's played up. And so, but it's not even a huge waterfall. It's just some water, right, running down.
Yep.
But that means that you have to, if he's terrified of water because he drowned, right? There's a good connection.
Yeah.
Except he was chained up and underwater for a few years. He walked under the sea all the way to Manhattan.
Right.
I don't think there was a lot of water issues. He was in a puddle. He was standing in a big puddle where he got electrocuted by the Carrie one.
Yep.
There's a lot of instances where he was in water and he had no issues. But now a dribble, it was like a bathtub running. Right. Oh my God, it was so bad. And at the end, there's big show, big explosion, big fight, big leaps. It was like there was the last 10 minutes were kind of fun. You know what I mean? You see the two characters really going at it.
Yeah.
Right. But again, a really forgettable movie, and Freddy is just irritating.
You're the one that killed Jack!
Oh, don't worry about my little errand, boy. The only thing to fear is fear himself.
And let's see, that one here, Jason versus Freddy, was made for $25 million.
Yep.
But it made $115 million.
Wow.
Well,
that's a crossover that, in horror, in the horror genre, it was the crossover everyone's waiting for, right?
Yeah.
Like, everyone would talk about it. Jason versus Freddy. Who would win that battle? So who wins?
Jason.
Wow.
Because you can't kill him. Right? So he comes back to life.
Right.
And then he dies. I don't even know. It's like that's 2003. When we watched them out of order. So we watched Jason 9, Jason Goes to Hell. Then we watched Freddy versus Jason, and then, which I guess takes place there. And then we watched Jason X.
Right.
But then they did a reboot.
Yep.
Right. So
just a straight reboot of Friday the 13th.
Straight reboot. One movie, and it basically takes the first three movies and kind of touches on them. The mom getting decapitated and the drowning and stuff like that.
Mom got hers. This girl, she cut that lady's head off with a machete. Her son, Jason, he came back.
But it has no...
Directed by Rob Zombie.
No, maybe he would have made it better. But it was like the guy who made it wanted to be Rob Zombie.
Right.
So now Jason is a survivalist. Now he's living in a cabin in the woods, and some teenagers cross paths with him, and he kills them all. Right. But it's kind of like, well, this is just a cottage area. Like, if he's been up here, why hasn't he been killing? Why did he start now? Doesn't make any sense. And he's a survivalist, so he has this cabin, but it's now like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, exactly.
So now
it's like Leatherface.
So now there's underground walkways, trap doors, secret places. Like it's totally ready for like protection against the siege.
Yeah.
Right. It's very Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And now he has like they've done like long hair strands to make him look like, his hair mostly fell out, and he never cut it, but come on, he would have cut it. Right? Yeah. Like he would have cut those long because it'd get in the way. Like you wouldn't be able to button a shirt properly without catching that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like even with a Bowie knife, you just cut so it was like completely forgettable.
Jason! Say hi to Mommy. In hell!
And nothing else has happened because what I heard was, or what I've read is that the writer for the first movie has been in legal battles.
Right.
Trying, because he wrote the screenplay, but he was paid for it. But now he's trying to say they're mine. After 35 years, you can fight for ownership.
Yeah.
So he's arguing that he created Jason Voorhees.
Right.
It's his invention, so therefore he owns it. And then I guess I don't know the whole story, but from what I understand, and like he's been given that. Yes, you created Jason Voorhees, and you wrote Friday the 13th. You are responsible for all of these things. But I think they're arguing, yes, but you created the character Jason Voorhees as a boy who drowned.
Right.
We created Jason Voorhees, the maniac in the hockey mask.
Right.
Right. And so they don't want to relinquish that. So I think that
one can't be really made without the other, right? Each person has a piece of the whole, right?
Yes. But in the first movie, there was no indication that Jason was going to be a killer.
Right.
Right.
But there's a character named Jason Voorhees. You got to call him Jason. And then there's a figure with a hockey mask, nameless, if you don't have that. You don't have both pieces, right?
But I guess the thing is they changed who he was. That's like saying, I created Kal-El. And the fact that Kal-El became Superman when he got to Earth, but I didn't create that part of the story. So then, even though Kal-El is Superman's real name, did I create Superman?
Yeah. If there was there'd have been a first movie where just Krypton, right? And it was Kal-El, and then they blast him off the end. He gets away. That's the end of the movie. And then he becomes Superman. The writer of that first movie, hey, I created Superman.
Exactly. No. And so I think that's what's going on. So I would say that unless he participated in even number 2, and I don't know, I didn't research. I don't like this doesn't deserve any more. That's enough. Like,
right.
So to wrap up the money side of it, the remake of Friday the 13th, the reboot was made for 17 million,
which is not bad for that's a low budget,
especially for 2009. That is, and it made 93 million. Wow. So the last 2 movies, the reboot and Freddy versus Jason, were the 2 biggies. The rest of them made, no, the first one made 60, the third one made 37, the fourth 32. Then after that, it was all under 20 or under 21. And then Freddy versus Jason, 115, and Friday the 13th reboot, 93. Like, big money.
Yeah.
For what it is.
Right.
So the lesson in all this is we should be making horror films.
Yeah.
Because you can make them on nothing. And,
well, so many people have started, right? So many actors started. A lot of actors got their start on, like you said, Kevin Bacon. Wasn't Johnny Depp in one of them?
Johnny Depp was in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, sorry, Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, exactly. Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, so a lot of people started that way, and a lot of people started their film careers in horror. Like John Carpenter really got his career going with Halloween, but he's not the horror guy.
Yeah.
He did Escape from New York, and he did Big Trouble in Little China. Like, and The Thing, it's like he's done whatever, but horror was a way in. With because you don't have to do much.
He ended up doing more science fiction, but you can't start in science fiction because science fiction is expensive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Horror is a dirt cheap, as we've seen, right? It's a cheap way of making a movie, and you've got a built-in genre, and people know what it is, and they'll go see it.
So Friday the 13th is a big fart, is what it is. Like,
1, 7, and 10.
1, 7, and 10. That's it.
So you're saying that with the Friday the 13th series, the puck really dribbled in between his legs in the butterfly position into the net.
That's just about exactly what I mean.
Hockey metaphors. Yay, Canada. Yeah. For a guy who has a stereotypical Canadian image, hockey mask, he really is a violent fella.
Yeah, well, hockey is such a friendly, gentle sport.
That's true.
12 movies. And they missed it. Why not 13 movies?
There you go. That's right. We're holding out hope for the 13th Friday the 13th movie. So that's got to be worth, what, 15 million, 20 million maybe to make it, just so you've done 13.
So then, I guess, what's the question? But then there's the series.
Right.
Friday the 13th, the series, which was another made in Canada show.
Yeah. That was just about antique store, and they'd go in. And
that's right.
There'd be a story about each
possessed things, haunted items,
which is, I think,
had nothing to do with Jason.
Calling something Friday the 13th and having a show like that, that's kind of departing from the material, I would think. You've departed from
in the way that Halloween 3 departed from
Yeah, exactly.
Michael Myers.
Exactly.
But it was on for a number of years.
It was.
And I don't know if they bought the license or if it had anything to do with the.
Yeah, maybe they just bought the name.
Or they said, we don't have to actually have anything to do with the movie. Friday the 13th is a date. It's a date on the calendar.
Exactly. It's just, yeah, exactly.
Right. I'm calling my movie Halloween. It takes place on Halloween.
What are you gonna do about it?
Yeah, it's October 31st. What can I say?
Like every person that decorates their house for Halloween, they got to pay like Columbia or whoever some change. No, can't do that. I'm gonna fight you in court. Fight you like Jason Voorhees with a machete. Gonna cut through that red tape.
So that's all I have to say about that.
So everyone remember to like and subscribe and donate. Link in the description down below.
That's right.
Or up above.
Or Jason's
I'm not sure.
Jason's gonna get you. Or you're gonna go to Manhattan and hell and on a ferry and to Camp Crystal Lake.
If you don't donate, it's a one-way ticket to Crystal Lake.